So we're doing, I call it exercise 2D. So it's developing a front left cross member, so it's this side of the part. And one of the main purposes of this project is to show you that when possible, you can borrow as much information from existing geometry as you can, and that's what we're gonna do. Because most of the left cross member over here is the same shape as that one. If you remember, we built it, a lot of the shape of this was built based on where those seat tracks and risers are, those green things, green and gray things. And earlier in this project, we took the two that were over here, which we designed to, but we also symmetrically, not really symmetrically, we moved them over. That way we translated them. But they're in the same relative position on this side that they were on that side, these two things, right? So, in other words, the cross member on this side, if it's gonna fit between those seat tracks and risers, it really is just a mirror of this one, okay? But it's not 100% a mirror. If the whole cross member was gonna be a mirror on this side exactly, you could do that in assembly tools. You could say, well, in the assembly, let's just make a mirror of that entire part and just bring it over here. But if you look at this close, the floor pan is not symmetric. The tunnel's not exactly in the middle. You can measure it if you want. I measured like this little edge right here and this edge on this side. They're not the same. So this is not exactly in the middle. So the tunnel is where we weld to the cross member. So on this side, where the weld flanges are, is different than on this side. So that's why we can't take the entire part. But most of the guts, remember, I don't know if you remember what we called it the U-channel. You know, if you ignore the weld flanges around the outside of this, we had like front surfaces and the top surfaces and the rear surfaces. And those, like I said, we sort of built those around the seat tracks and risers. That piece, which we called the U-channel, not the, without the weld flanges, that piece is gonna be mirrored on the other side. We're also going to be able to take some information that we use to trim this part and use it on that side, right? So there is some work involved in doing this, but again, a lot of what we're doing, a lot of what we need, we already made it on the other side. And unfortunately, that means that what's different on this side is going to be the weld flange, and you know, we just did it on the previous one. The weld flange, if you remember, well, we took a slab from the sides of the tunnel, we took a slab from the bottom, slab from the sill flange, and it made that giant trough over here, right? That big shape that almost all of it went away and left us with these little flanges. We got to kind of do that over here. I'm going to do a little bit faster because, you know, it's stuff we've done a couple times before. But again, most of this is really about making use of something we already have, okay? As much as we can. So the first thing is we're going to be building the cross member left front seat front. I've already done it, so you don't have to watch me do it, but I added some more feature groups in that one. This is the first time we're actually doing anything in here other than bringing in those seat tracks and risers. We did that a couple of weeks ago. But then I added some more feature groups. I'll just make a note here. We are dividing this up into subsets, right? This is the cross member. So the cross member, we broke it up into the form and the trim, and then combining those, we end up with the final part. And the form itself is divided up, or subdivided into the U-channel and the weld flange, kind of like we did here. The thing is, almost everything in the U-channel, it's really just a copy of something we have over here. And the trim is just a copy of something we have over here. So really, most of the work in this exercise is for the weld flange, because the weld, as I said a minute ago, that's what's different on this side from that side, is the weld flange, right? So I did that. Then it says, you know, we got to borrow some information from that side. So I'm going to go into the cross member right front seat front, which we just made, or you might still be working on, okay? And as I just kind of said, we want everything but the flanges. So, you know, if you really remember this, you know right where to go, but it tells you in the instructions, locate the face blend with the name U-channel main body and U-channel features group, right? Feature group. So inside a form under U-channel, way down here at the bottom, the last thing I did, it says U-channel main body. I don't know, again, if you just did this, you might remember, that's before we added the weld flanges. Now, if you're not sure if that's the right one, maybe you forgot to name it, it should be the last blend in the form group, or in the U-channel group, I should say, right? But if you're not sure if that's the one, remember, you can always go back in time and say, make the current, make that the current feature. And that is what I'm looking for. That's the U-channel. That's what we called the U-channel. Doesn't have the weld flanges on it yet. But it's consumed, right? If I go to the end of time here, make the last feature current, well, that U-channel got consumed because of the blend to the weld flanges. So we need another copy of that. And I think, get a copy of that sheet body. Oh yeah, it does say, read my instructions on that. I don't tell you to do an extract body, but it does say that. So you just right click and you go to extract body here. Okay. That temporarily makes that feature group active so it can create it, but there's the extracted body. That's not consumed. Okay. And we're also going to rename that a couple of ways, like we usually talk about. I'm going to call it copy of U-channel. Do it the right way. Main body. Okay. And while I'm at it, because we are going to make a link to this. So if you remember, when we know we're going to have wavelengths down the stream using this part, it makes it much more convenient if we name the sheet body. And the sheet body typically is named the same as the feature itself. So I'm going to do a copy. I'm just going to do a Control C. You didn't see it, but I copied that name. Okay, I'll hit enter. And then I'm going to go into the sheet body. I think that's the next step. Yeah, it tells you to go into the sheet body of that thing and rename it. And remember, I tell you to change the filter up here, the selection filter, change it to sheet body. That way when you pick it, you're picking the sheet body. And you can right click on it and go to properties. Or, I actually don't like to do it that way too much because then you forget you turn that on the sheet body. If that's set to sheet body, then you can't pick anything else. It only picks sheet bodies, right? So sometimes you forget that. So I don't like to change that. I would rather do it the other way, the quick pick way, where you just hover over it for a second, wait for the dots, and then find the sheet body, and there it is. Okay. Go to properties, and here's why I did the copy. If I now just do a paste, blends it in there. I'm going to check that box, apply to work part, and maybe I'll explain that a little bit more right now. I don't know. I think it's one of those, I kept saying, I'll talk about that later, why it's a good idea to check that box. But I'll tell you that, what it's about. We are renaming the sheet body. That's what we're doing in this window. This is the sheet body properties window. We are renaming it, but we're doing it in an assembly window, right? Yes, I'm in the cross member, but in my NX session right now, the window I'm looking at is an entire assembly. And it acts different sometimes when you're in a single part all by itself in the window, or when you're in an assembly with one of the parts as the work part, okay? If that box isn't checked, that means the only time I'll see that sheet body name is if I have the cross member up in the assembly window. If I had, let me say it this way, it's logical, I don't know if you'll grasp what I'm saying, but if I don't have that box checked, and I hit OK, then yeah, I rename the sheet body, but if later on, I close everything up, and then I go to open up just the U-channel by itself in its own window, that sheet body won't have that new name. It'll only show the new name if you're in the assembly where you renamed it. If you turn this on, apply to work part, the work part is the cross member. That way, if I do this, and I am going to do that, I'll just hit OK. That means if later on I close everything and then I open up this cross member all by itself, the sheet body will have the new name. Okay, doesn't matter if it's in the assembly window or not. It's just one of them things, and again, that might be a little fuzzy, but it's something to think about when you're dealing with parts and assembly. Sometimes when you change things graphically, put the parts in an assembly, it's only when it's in the assembly that you see those graphic changes. You open up the part in its own window and you don't see those things. It's kind of frustrating sometimes. You think, I could have swore I changed the color of the part, but if you did it while it was in an assembly, then you really didn't change the color of the part, you changed the color of the part in that assembly. Okay? So anyway, that didn't really matter for the exercise, but just because we kept doing that, I didn't really explain it much before. You still think you didn't really explain it much now. All right, so I got that. So now, and the reason I made that available is because, again, I'm gonna need that on the cross member left. I'm still on the cross member right. I'm gonna need a copy of it so I can use it over here. The other thing I also said we can share from this side is the trimming piece. So if I show that right here, now I don't know why. I'm looking at my instructions in this step, and it says go to the perimeter trim define and do the extract body, and then rename the body and the sheet body. But I don't think I had to say that extra step. I'm gonna do it anyway, but the perimeter trim define, it actually, we didn't consume it. You know what I mean? We didn't really, I'll turn this on for a second. This sheet body, the way it is right now, that's how we need it. It didn't get consumed by a later step. The only thing we used that for was when we did the final trim sheet. And when you do a trim sheet, the tool you're using to trim it, you're not affecting that tool. You're affecting the target, but you're not affecting the tool. So this shape right here is actually good enough to use on the other file. I shouldn't have to make an extracted copy of it. I'm not sure why I did that in instructions. So I tell you to go here and do an extract body here. So now there's two of them right on top of each other. They're exactly kind of the same. And it says, name it copy of perimeter trim define. Maybe that's why, so I can give it a different name. I don't remember what my logic was for doing that. Because I don't really need an extra copy, Dolby. Maybe that's telling me something. I accidentally typed in Dolby instead of copy. Perimeter. Oh, here we go. Start panicking. Can't type. All right. Copy of perimeter trim define. And then I should have copied that. And I can actually go back to it. I can go to rename, do a copy of that, Control C. Then I'm gonna hide this one because it was right behind it, and just to make sure I'm picking the right one, to rename the sheet body. That is copy of perimeter trim define. The properties there, paste it there. Turn the black work part, okay. And I think it does say, make sure you hide, no, it doesn't say that, but if you do that step, I mean, you could actually not do that step. You could just went to the perimeter trim define and rename the sheet body of it, and then link that into the other file. But I have this one here. If you do make the extracted body, hide the previous one called perimeter trim define. And so all I want to have visible now in the cross member right, front seat front, is that thing we call the U channel and that thing we call the trim. I mean, I have the overall finished part in there too, but I got those two pieces, right? So then it says, all right, you got those visible. Then let's go into the cross member, or no, floor pan, because I got to get more information on this side. I'm going to borrow those two things, but I also got to get some other information from the floor pan, because remember, we got to make the weld flanges again. So it says go to the floor pan, find the two slabs that were back here, which was on the main slabs in the tunnel, on the left side tunnel. So it should be, there should be a couple of extracted bodies like that. Okay, right side tunnel, left side tunnel. Just make them visible. And now that I'm thinking of it, we are going to use these to link, because I'm in the floor pan now. I got to copy these into the other file. And I couldn't remember if we did this earlier or not, but when we do links, it's very convenient if the sheet bodies are named. So here's the left side rear tunnel or whatever, okay? I'm actually going to do this. Rename and do a copy, Control C. Then I'll go into the sheet body. Back one here. Go into the sheet body, wait for the three dots. Oh, you know what? I still have that on sheet body. See, I forgot to turn that off. Luckily, I was picking a sheet body, but it's easy to forget to turn that off. You know, maybe we did rename these earlier. See, this does have the new name. So I didn't have to rename the one. I'm not sure if you guys did it or if I did it in mine. When you get to that point to go to rename it, it is already renamed. And you know how I can tell just looking at that on the screen? Just as a reminder. It says sheet body, and then in uppercase, it says LS rear tunnel surface of lowercase left side rear tunnel surface. When it's all uppercase and then it says of after it, that means, yeah, that's the sheet body name. That's the sheet body name of the feature called left side rear tunnel circle. So it does already have that name. That's good, I guess. Then maybe I should change my instructions. If anybody else gets to that step and you can remember this, tell me that yours already has it renamed too. Just remind me so that I'll know I should change my instructions. Let me go to this one. Just hover over that. Yeah, that's at the front. Yeah, that's uppercase too. So those are both renamed in the sheet body. Now, once again, the reason I did it is because we're going to copy those. There's a wave link, and it's a lot easier to work with if they got the names on them. And then so you're going to show those two. Apparently, we don't have to rename the sheet bodies, but we're also going to make the weld flange. Remember, we're going to have a copy of that flat main slab on the bottom, so we got to go to copy of horizontal slab, show that. I'm just showing things right now on the floor pan. So those three things I show. I think that one should already have. I'll double check. Yeah, that one also an uppercase, copy of horizontal slab. So those are all renamed on their sheet bodies too. So, all right. Now, there's one other thing we got to borrow because again, why am I going to these surfaces? Because we're going to have to make that weld flange on this side. That includes, these two pieces of these two pieces of the bottom, and then we got the left side. Now this one says in the weld flange group, in the floor pan, I'm still in the floor pan, in the sill weld flange, it says make it active, because what I want, when I'm active in there, I can see this guy, which is what I need to make the weld flanges in the cross member, but that's actually consumed. If I go to the end of the history, all that's left of that is this little face right here. Remember that got consumed when I blended it. So I need that slab again, okay? What it tells you to do is in the weld flange group, sill weld flange, make it active. And yet, I know that's showing, but it says hide that left side one, because I know I can't use it. It was a mirror. I can't use it because it got consumed later on, so most of it's gone, okay, further on in history. Okay, it does say show this one, I think. Yeah, show the copy of the right side. Actually, the copy of the right side. That's that one. Okay, that's this. And it says make a mirror feature of that. In other words, here's what it's trying to do, because this paragraph, it's like there's a lot of things going on, and you're going, what do I have to do all that? Like here's what I'm trying to get at. I need that slab on this side. Okay, I do have the slab on this side, but as I just said, it's been consumed. So your first thought might be, well, why don't you just extract the body here of that one, right? Well, if you try it, it's not on there. You don't see extract body here. I don't see it. You see it? Maybe they changed it. No, it's not there. I mean, even if the part is at the end of history, if I right click on this, there's something called bodies and booleans, but that's not extract body here. The thing is this, that mirror is a mirror of this one on this side, okay? And the system is basically telling us, well, if you mirror something that's over here, we don't want you to actually extract a copy of a mirror. It doesn't like when you go too many steps, this one to that one and that one to this one and this. It's probably a good thing. What's kind of forcing us to do is say, you know what, if you want another copy of a slab over here, don't make a copy of the copy you already have. Go back to that one and mirror that one. That's what it's telling us. So it says, so go to sill weld. That's why it's telling us to do that. It doesn't let you make an extract body of a mirror of something that was already extracted. All right. I guess it's saying there's too many extracts in there. Okay. So it says, what did I just say? Oh, make this active. I was talking and thinking at the same time. So in the sill weld flange group, I'm going to hide that one because again, that's the one I know I said this 10 times. That's the one that's consumed. I'm going to make another copy that's not going to be consumed. And we do it with a mirror. And I tell you to use mirror geometry. Okay, so in the home tab, if you go to the more button here, there's mirror geometry. Mirror geometry as opposed to mirror feature, because mirror feature means you're mirroring the feature called an extracted body, but we're just going to mirror the sheet body. That's what That's what mirror geometry means. The word geometry means things like sheet bodies or faces, not features. So it's picking a sheet body. So I'm gonna grab that. I'm gonna mirror that across the center line, which is the ZX plane. Just so you pick that right? Start over again. Mirror that, go to the mirror plane field, pick that body, and then hit OK. Right? And that's a brand new one. I just put it in that feature group. That'll stay there if I update to the end, make last feature current, because that one isn't consumed by anything. Whereas the original one is. And yeah, of course, we're gonna name that. Now, so you should have, when you're done with that step, you should have two mirrors in there. One is LS. Mirror, no, sorry, what am I? I'm looking at the one above it and reading it at the same time. Come on. 3 L's, I'm gonna leave it like that, I don't care. Wait, no, I forgot it now. All right, and I'm gonna copy that because, just like everything else I've been talking about, that's gonna be linked to another file. So we're still in the floor pan right now. Okay, so I did a copy. You know, I have the same exact name on there. Oh no, this one says for cross member, okay. So go to the 3 dots, go to the, that is that's not the right one, that's the so well flash for trim. Why is it not? Oh, you know what, maybe I'll just hide that one. Maybe there was 2 on top of there. I was picking the wrong one, yeah, that's what it was. I didn't hide the original one. I was looking at the name, but that doesn't show. The one I just made is this one.
Is it the mirror geometry up there? Oh.
Yeah, but I want the sheet body
Okay.
of that one. I have the other one hidden. Let me hide that too. Let me set this to sheet body. It took on the, look at that, it took on the name.
Just rename them.
Yeah, I am gonna rename it, but I'm wondering why I took on the name of that. See, in uppercase, it says weld flange for trim, and in lowercase, it says weld flange for cross member. So I don't know why they did that, but I'm just gonna go up here and paste the new name for cross member. That should be good enough. That was confusing. No, I did it on purpose. I knew it was gonna happen. I just wanted you guys to know that sometimes weird things happen. I'm kidding. I don't know why it happened. All right. So anyway, I got it renamed. After all that, I was gonna say this one's faster because you know a lot of the stuff we've already done, and then I go and mess it up like that and make it take twice as long. But you know, I'm good for that. So then we go. Did I already rename? Yeah, we do. Now we're gonna go to the cross member left front seat front. So, in this part of it, and actually in the floor plan I have the rest of it hidden, maybe I'll go back. I didn't have to do this, but I wanna see the main part. Main part, hide this. Alright, anyway. So I got everything visible here that I need from the floor pan. I've got a couple things visible on that other cross member, so that when I go into the left front seat front, I can make wavelengths to all that stuff. So I gotta do it in the right spot though, because we're trying to organize this. So let's see, what do I tell you to do first? I tell you to go into the U-channel feature group, make it active. That's gonna require that little piece in there, so we're gonna go to assemblies, wave geometry linker. You know, the good habit every once in a while, do the reset button to make sure the default settings are on, which should include associative. Hide original just means that original is the one in the floor pan, or I'm sorry, in the cross member right. When I make the copy here, it'll hide the one in the cross member right. That might be a good thing to do actually. So I'm gonna set this to body. And the only thing I'm grabbing here in the U channel feature group is that thing. Okay, I'm gonna hit okay. Oh, and you know, let me undo that because I forgot. The important thing that I keep talking about, when you go to Wave Geometry Linker, and you set it a certain way, the naming is, the whole reason we do the naming is because of that right there. It tells you, that's the copy of U-channel main body. So you know what you're picking. right? If it's renamed with the sheet bodies, it tells you that. If you got stuff that wasn't renamed, I'm trying to find something. It just says that's a surface, that's some surface in the cross member right front seat front part, but it doesn't say what it is. So renaming the sheet bodies, it pays off right here, and in other places too. So we pick that, I hesitated, pick that, okay. So there's a copy of it in the current part, which is the cross member left, right? Now that should take on the name here, that, again, that's where that name came from too. So you don't have to name it, right? So it's a link body. Now we're gonna do the same thing with that trimming piece, except the trimming piece goes here under trim. So I'm gonna make that active. Then I'm gonna do a weight geometry linker. That's this guy, which I did it so fast I didn't look at the name again, but you get the idea. So let's copy the perimeter trim define, right? Now we're gonna do the trickier part, the weld flanges. If I make that the current feature, you notice I don't see the trim piece anymore because the weld flanges come before the trim. So, I'm sorry, if I make that active, same concept. If that's active, then everything after it is kind of deactivated right now, so I don't see the trim stuff. That's after. It doesn't matter. I don't need it for right now. But we're gonna make links to all those other things, which include that one, and there's the front, there's the name. Did I go to weight link? Forgot to go to weight linker. So there's the name, I apply, there's this one, I apply, that one, I apply, and there's the bottom one, I hit okay. All right. What do I have you do? Because at some point, we're gonna need to mirror those, and we're also gonna need to split that guy in half, but I guess we can do that in a later step. I'm looking at my instructions. All right. So yeah, the next step then is we're gonna take that channel, the U channel, we're just gonna mirror it. We'll mirror geometry across the ZX plane, but we're gonna do that in the U channel feature group again. So right now in the U channel feature group, I have the link body, but it's on the wrong side. So I'm gonna activate that. And I'm gonna do a mirror geometry, home tab, more button, mirror geometry. That's all one sheet bite, so it's gonna grab the whole thing, go across the ZX plane, okay. So I made a mirror body, that makes another copy of it. So the original one is still there, we can hide that. We don't need it for the rest of this. We gotta keep it, we can't get rid of it, but we don't need to see it. And this one I'm supposed to name it as left side U channel main body. Okay. Now you notice I don't have you, well you will notice when you get to that step, I don't have you rename the sheet body on that, because we're not intending to use that down the road with other links. Okay, if we were, we would rename that too. Now we gotta do the same thing for the trim, make that active. Do a mirror body or mirror geometry of that piece. That piece, cross CX. Okay, hide this one right now, don't need to see it. And because, just as a reminder, because when I did the link geometry, I did the hide original, I don't see those on the cross member right anymore. It hid them, okay? So I got a lot of what I need there. And that too, let me name that, because I tell you to name it, so I'll name it. That perimeter trim define, all right? And I hid the original, okay, I already did that. Yeah, here now in the part that's gonna take a little longer, inside of weld flanges. Make that active. The horizontal slab, we're gonna trim that in half, just because it makes filleting easier. Technically, I guess we didn't have to do that, but I found that it makes it look a lot nicer when you're doing a blend. So we're gonna trim the slab where it meets the ZX plane. Keep the left side. Okay, and then we're gonna call that left horizontal slab split. hard for me to type. And now here's another thing in my instructions, I tell you to, we're gonna offset some things like we did before. You know, all those steps where we make this big U channel, or we make the big weld flange with all those offset faces, right? Well, we gotta offset them by the material thickness and whatnot. I have you make linked expressions to 2 different lengths. It says the seat cross member thickness and the floor pan thickness. But I'm pretty sure we don't use the seat cross member thickness for the rest of the steps. I don't know why I had you do both of them. I'll do them, but I think you only need the floor pan thickness. Well, anyway, what does that mean? If you remember, when you go to tools expressions, you can make expressions for your geometry, but you can also make interpart expressions, right? Meaning, well, in some of my other parts, I have expressions, I wanna link them to this part. So you go to create or edit interpart expressions. You gotta pick the part I'm looking for is the floor pan thickness, which is in the floor pan. So I go to the floor pan part. It shows me all the expressions that are in the floor pan part. The one I want is floor pan thickness. Remember, it's alphabetical. Most of them start with the letter P, but there's F right there, so I'm gonna pick that. Oh, I gotta move to the right destination expressions. Hit okay. Hit okay. So in this part, I now have, under links, a link floor pan thickness. In fact, I'm just gonna do that one. I tell you to do the seat cross member thickness, which is in a different part. But unless I'm mistaken, I don't think I need the other one. If I do, I'll just go get it. I can't remember why we did that. So now I'm gonna try to do this quick because we've done this over and over, right? We're gonna do the offset of all these things to represent the other side of material. So offset the bottom one by the floor pan. I'll just start typing in here. FL, floor pan thickness. Make sure it's going upward because the floor pan is the bottom of the material, we need the top. Offset that one. It says offset these other 3, and it's like we did before. It says to go outboard. When I say outboard, I mean to the left in this orientation. It says negative Y in the instructions. So if you look at this, negative Y is to the left in my orientation. So I'll pick that one. It's already going that way. I'll just hit apply. And it does remember the expression. And then this one too also goes outward. I gotta flip that one. You remember why it goes outward now? And I'm gonna hide the originals too, while I'm thinking of it. Hide the ones that aren't offset. Okay. So I could actually do it here, might be easier. Just hide those. So now I just see the offsets. And it should be 4. Yep. As a quick reminder, why did this one go to the right, not inboard? Because it's representing, when it's all said and done, it's representing a wall that's down here, which is actually bending downward from the material. So right on this little flange, I don't know if you can see what I'm pointing at, the material actually goes outward from there. The rest of the way, it goes upward, but it comes around the bend, it goes outward. So that's why that one's offset. Right. Then what do we do? Then we do the old blend here, and I'm not making you measure all this stuff. We're just trying to blend these 2 walls together. It's just a face blend. It is that concept of, well, it's a face blend that's kind of representing an offset of the floor pan. So I'm gonna blend that one and that one, both pointing to the right. So if you look at it from above, I'm exaggerating, but the fillet's gonna be on this side like this. Okay, so the arrows are going to the right. And if I made you measure it, you'd be measuring a little blend inside the floor pan where the walls meet in the tunnel. It's 1,000 millimeters. So I tell you to use a radius of 1,000 plus the floor pan thickness. So I'm actually typing that in, 1,000 plus, and I'll just start typing in FL. There's the floor pan thickness. Okay. And oops, what did I cancel? I meant to hit preview. Sorry. Let's make it take twice as long. Let's make it take 3 times as long. That one. That one. 1,000 plus FL. I was gonna hit that and I hit cancel. Maybe we'll hit that. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So again, the reason it's 1,000 plus is because the floor pan itself has that radius right there. but that's the inside of material, we're going to the outside of material. For an outside radius like that, the outside is gonna be bigger by the thickness of the material, okay? So there's that. Then let's see, what's my next step? Oh, and we are gonna make our good friend variable radius fillet right here, just like we did on this side for the trim, because where our flanges, weld flanges meet that, the radius is slightly changing a little bit. So we're gonna make a variable radius. How do we do that? I'll go through the steps without explaining them a lot. I'm gonna do an intersection curve between that and that. Okay, there's a curve down there. Why did I make that curve? Because I'm gonna create a couple of points really quick. Okay, I'm gonna put points on that curve. Now, where that curve is not anywhere, the length of that curve is not anything real precise, because a lot of these walls, we drew them a long time ago just with lines. I'm gonna create a plane at a specific location from here at 1180 mils. So it's at a precise location. We could actually use any number really, as long as we're all measuring from the same place and we end up in the same place. But here's a plane, maybe I'll move it up a little bit. Here's a plane, kind of floating out in space. I'm gonna intersect that plane. I'm gonna go to the point command, create an intersection point. Remember, when you're doing a point by an intersection, the second pick has to be a curve. It always says curve to intersect with. So if you're intersecting a plane and a curve, you gotta pick the plane first. And make sure this is on feature curves. And it's right there. So that's my precise location. Do I name that? Yeah. Rename it to reference point, not a real fancy name there. I probably got lazy in the naming. So we only need it once. Reference. Okay, reference point. That's a point that, again, I can have you measure stuff, because we're trying to figure out, you can sort of see the behind the scenes there. Can you see the input? There's a fillet right there. And basically I'm trying to make it so that the side that we're gonna be using for the weld flanges, it matches this shape right here. So I think the first point is gonna be right about there. Well, I don't have you measure it, I just basically say, let's make a point, using that one we've used a few times, point on curve, okay? The curve will be, make sure it's on feature curves, that intersection, but we're gonna do a start point for the reference, and we're gonna pick our reference point, it's safe to pick it in the tree. From there, I tell you to go 328. Why 328? Because I measured it, and that works out pretty close to where I want it. See, it's kind of like where that fillet starts right there. So I'll hit OK. There's one at 328. Then, surprised, I don't have you name those points. Then I have you make it one more. We only have to make 2 points. It's at 845. So same curve, starting from the same reference point. Make sure you pick the right one. And this one is 845, just because I told you so. And that's where the variable fillet kind of ends. Okay. So I got a couple of points. Remember, we're going to use them on an edge blend. And when you go to make an edge blend, I don't want to see the curve out in front of it. So I'm going to turn off that intersection curve, or hide it, I should say. Right? And to do an edge blend, you need a hard edge. So these are 2 separate sheet bodies right now. There's no edge between them. So to remember the tool that glues 2 sheet bodies together and kind of trims them where they meet, in the surface tab, that's called trim and extend, make corner. Right? So I have it on body faces. And of course I can pick face. Have it on body faces. I'll pick that one, and I'll pick that one. And you gotta manipulate the arrow so that everything's going the right way. I think I just gotta flip that. Yep, that's what I need. That's gonna give me a hard edge in there, on which I can now make an edge blend. Jumping ahead a little bit here. In the edge blend. Before I start, the main radius, I think along the back of my, where the bottom of the tunnel is on this side, I think it was 80. So I tell you to do 82 for this, 82. And then pick that edge, and, you know, if you have it on tangent curves, and I mean the hard edge, not the intersection curve, that's hidden, right? And it says 82. Yeah, 82, okay? That one is a little bit bigger than the floor pan radius, which is 80 right there. Now this is not because of an offset of material thickness. This one is where we don't want it to touch. So if the walls are in the same spot and you make a bigger radius, it's gonna pull it away. I don't know if you remember, I drew a little picture last time. If I made it a smaller radius, it would actually get tighter in the corner. Bigger radius pulls it away from the corner. Anyway, that's 82. So that's the main shape, the main fillet all the way across. But then we're gonna do variable at a couple of points, right? So it says, all right, then you go here, the point you created at 328, that was actually my second one, that's bigger right there. At that point, we're gonna make the radius 82, because we're starting out at 82. Is that what I want? Yeah, starting out at 82. So that's still gonna be 82. So that one's actually done. Now we're gonna go to the next point, and remember the thing about variable fillet is it stays on that field unless you change it. It stays on specified radius point. So if I don't do anything else, all I gotta do is pick the second point, so I'm gonna pick that one. And it says make that one 52. Okay, and I hit enter. So there you can see, it starts out 82, and then from there to there, it varies down. And the whole reason I'm doing this is just because a little bit of that weld flange is right in that area right here, where, you know, I'm not sure exactly what the radius is right here for the weld flange, but I want to match what the floor pan has. So right here, it's, at this point, it's 52, but out here, I don't know what it is. So I'm as close as I can, I'm trying to match the floor pan. But here's the thing, then it says, don't hit OK, because sometimes it does this. Well, it does this, because remember, my original was 82, and if you look at the back end, that still thinks it's 82. Now it's varying. Right now it's going from 52 here, it's slowly getting bigger to 82, but that's not matching the floor pan anymore. So what I have you do, I tell you to carefully pick back here. There's a little point right here. But this is set to existing point. If it's set to existing point, it won't let me pick vertices. See, right here I tell you, change this to inferred, and then it says, carefully select the vertex point at the back. What I mean by that is, and ours are all gonna be in a slightly different spot, but right there, should be right there. Oh, I didn't change it. Inferred, if you go to inferred, right there. That's where the edge, where the hard edge, where it ends, right there. And that should be 52. Let's see, yeah, see now it's going constant across. Does that make sense? It didn't go to 52. It's easy to miss that. If you're not looking at it, you know, originally I said, oh yeah, that should be all good. That was 82, but then that went down to 52, but that was going back up to 82. You had to tell it, now, starting here, it's gonna be 52 the whole way. All right, so you had to do that. So I said I was gonna do it fast because we did it before, and I still took a long time. All right, the rest of it's gonna go really fast. Now, one more face blend for the outside of this giant trough I keep talking about for our, I'm still in weld flanges, okay? That's just gonna be 25 mil radius. So, following my often talked about rules, pick the main one you've been working on first, then pick the new one you're adding second. Now that radius that I had was, for some reason, 1000.71. Why is it that? I don't know. Oh, I remembered that last blend I did. That's weird. Oh, because it wasn't a variable radius. But so anyway, that's 25. Okay. Oh, and this should be the weld flange defined. Left side, weld flange defined. Weld flange defined. Okay. I like to leave my typos in here sometimes. All right, now, in the form feature group, because now we're gonna finish the entire form. The form contains the weld flanges and the U-channel, right? They're two separate groups. We're gonna go to their common parent, make that active, which is form, and just do an 8 mil radius between those two. This is one of those where you're like, well, you said pick the part you've been working on first, but I've been working on this and I've been working on that. But sometimes you kind of think, well, what's the main shape that you're adding something to? And I would think the main shape is the U-channel, and I'm adding the weld flanges to it. So I'm gonna pick the main shape first. Then I'm gonna pick that second. They need to be both going up, make it 8. final form before the trim. So it is our form. So it's in the form set. Trim amendment. All right, final form before trim, and then finally, in the final part, feature group, make that active. We got a trim with trim sheet, and just as a reminder, when you're doing a trim sheet, it matters where you pick things. So I want to trim this main part, which includes the U channel in there. But it's easy to pick it out here. So I picked the outside. The boundary is going to divide that into two separate regions. So when I picked the boundary, it divided the target into two separate regions. It says keep, and it says select region. Remember, if you go to select region, it highlights pretty much what it's doing. It's highlighting the side I picked. I picked the outside, so it's highlighting that. If I would have picked it in here, it would have highlighted that. But the reason I'm worried about this is because it says it's going to keep the highlighted region. But that would get rid of the inside, and that's what we really want to keep is the inside, so I'm going to say discard that. I could undo this and reselect it from the inside. Either way, it gives you the final result. And then the last thing, and some people think it didn't work, you just got to hide that. There we go. So, I mean, it seemed like, yeah, it's one of my typical demos. It takes a lot longer than I always say. But we did save a lot of time. If you remember the first cross member, it took a long time to get all that stuff built in there, all those nooks and crannies, right, that go underneath the C-tracks and risers, by the way, if I show them again. They still should fit in there pretty good. Okay? So it did actually save us a lot of time by not having to make the channel over again. All right? And I was gonna say this, if you wanna play around and try it, it's not part of the exercise, but a lot of this stuff is linked from that, okay? So that means, if I went into the cross member right, front seat front, save that before I keep talking, and I change something on this, that should change, okay? If you wanna try it, now we're gonna actually do this a little bit more formally later in the course, but if you wanna try it, one thing you wanna make sure of, if you go to assemblies, near the wave geometry linker, I'm gonna explain this in more detail later on, but there's a thing called the Associativity Manager. Here it says delay assembly constraint or delay geometry updates. Those are unchecked. They should be unchecked. That means if you change something here and there's something linked to it, that should automatically change. If you have it on delay and you make a change over here, it won't update the other one until you're ready to. You come to this window and it'll say these are out of date. So if you want to try it, by changing this and just see if it does reflect on the other side, go to assemblies, go to Associativity Manager, make sure those are unchecked, and then try to change. I'm not gonna do it right now, but if you want to. I might do it after I'm done talking, but, okay?
This one is turning, right?
Yes. Yeah, because this is, what do we call this, 2D? Yeah, if you look at the assignments folder, yeah. Or actually, if you look at, one way to tell is if I look at, I know you don't see it on the screen, if you look at content, I have, yeah, 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. So the last one is 2B, so yes, we're turning in 2. The next one's got 2 steps to it. There's 3A and a 3B, but that's for later. Okay? You have a question?